The spark war. The boom wasn't small. It rattled my windows, knocked my bird feeder sideways, and sent my cat darting under the grill like it owed him money. At first, I thought a transformer had blown, or maybe some kid down the street had lit an M82 a little too close to the fence. But then I heard the low hiss of melting plastic and followed the sound like it was calling me. That's when I saw it. An orange extension cord flopped over the top of my wooden fence like a lazy spaghetti noodle, plugged into my backyard outlet, and trailing straight into my neighbor's yard. The plug was charred at the tip, the cord partially melted. And that was the moment I knew this wasn't just power theft. It was war. Her name was Denise, a woman who wore entitlement like it was Chanel No. 5. She lived next door with her husband, Stan, and their teenage son who had the expression of someone who just found out he wasn't the main character in life. Denise had pulled stunts before. Last December, she plugged her 30,000 light Christmas extravaganza into my outlet just for the day. That day turned into 3 weeks. 3 weeks of blown fuses, sky-high electric bills, and a fruitcake that was somehow both dry and soggy, passive-aggressively handed to me with a note that said, "Thanks for sharing the holiday spirit." I let it slide then. I told myself maybe it was holiday stress. Maybe she didn't know better. But no, Denise knew exactly what she was doing. This time, it wasn't just tinsel and lights. She'd leveled up, and my electric bill had gone up nearly $200 since her poolside party started. Living next to Denise was like living next to a ticking time bomb of boundary violations. She was the kind of neighbor who painted property lines on sidewalks and cited HOA rules like she wrote them, which she kind of did. She was on the board, of course. No one remembered voting for her, but there she was like black mold. Persistent, uninvited. When my smart garden lights flickered and my sprinklers rebooted for the 3rd time that week, I decided enough was enough. Armed with a flashlight and a voltage detector, I patrolled the perimeter of my fence like a suburban ghostbuster. And there it was, Denise's extension cord, cheap and frayed, looped over my fence and plugged into my outdoor outlet like it had diplomatic immunity. On the other end, her pool shed glowed like a Vegas casino at midnight. The whole backyard was lit up like a 4th of July finale. I didn't yank the cord. I wasn't about to make a scene. No, I unplugged it calmly, coiled it neatly, and draped it back over the fence like a peace offering I didn't mean. 10 minutes later, she was banging on my door like she was the FBI and I owed her electricity. "I saw what you did," she shrieked. "You mean I unplugged my own outlet?" I asked. "It's on the fence line. That makes it community property." I blinked. "Denise, it's on the brick wall of my house. You know, the one your husband backed into last summer and blamed on the shadows." "It's just electricity," she huffed. "It's not like you're using it." That was when I realized she might actually believe electricity was like air, free, communal, just floating around waiting to be borrowed. I didn't argue. I just closed the door and walked straight to my workshop. What Denise didn't know was that I designed power monitoring systems for a living. Voltage logs? My love language. Circuit maps? My bedtime stories. If she wanted to wage a war of wattage, she picked the wrong neighbor. I pulled my logs. There they were. Spikes every day around 3 p.m., right when her inflatable unicorn sprinkler system kicked in. One spike at 2 a.m. Who needs that much power in the middle of the night unless you're running a meth lab or we're trying to resurrect Frankenstein? Still, I hoped it was just coincidence. So I set up cameras. Within 2 days, I had footage of her son dragging the cord over the fence like it was part of his morning routine. He even saluted the camera. That's when I knew. It wasn't just Denise being careless. It was tradition. I brought the footage to the HOA. Their response? Technically, she's not modifying her property, so it's a gray area. A gray area, like power theft, was just a creative misunderstanding. I realized then that unplugging the cord wouldn't be enough. Denise wouldn't learn from polite boundaries. She needed spectacle. She needed to be scared straight. So I built the breaker bomb. No, it wasn't a real bomb. It was a deterrent system, legal, loud, and obnoxiously effective. It was programmed to detect unauthorized current draw and respond with an ear-splitting alarm, strobe lights, and a cloud of glitter so thick it would make Studio 54 look modest. I added a confetti cannon and synced the whole thing to my phone. When I tested in my garage, the blast scared a jogger and made 3 squirrels abandon their nest. I waited. The next day, I removed the lock from the outlet, coiled her cord neatly beside it, let her think she'd won. By sunset, her cord was plugged in again. Perfect. At 2:41 p.m. the next afternoon, my phone buzzed. Unauthorized draw detected. System active. The explosion of noise was glorious. Alarm screamed. Strobes flashed. Glitter erupted into the air like a celebration of justice. Denise shrieked. Stan tripped and landed face first into the deflating unicorn. Neighbors peeked out from windows. A kid on a scooter yelled, "Yo, backyard rave!" Denise stormed to the fence, her robe flapping, glitter clinging to her face like karma. "What the hell did you do?" "That," I said, sipping coffee, "was the sound of justice." She tried to argue. Then the police showed up. Apparently a neighbor thought it was a domestic dispute. I calmly showed them footage, device specs, and logs. The officer looked amused. "She's been running her whole setup on your power?" "Yup." Denise tried to protest. "He wasn't even using it." The officer sighed. "Ma'am, that's still theft." 15 minutes later, she was cited for noise violations, tampering with property, and advised to buy her own generator. I thought that would be the end. But Denise was like mold, persistent. The next night, I caught her on camera, sneaking around with a garden stake and what looked like a taped-together power strip, trying to dig near my buried conduit. I filed a cease and desist the next morning. Had it hand-delivered by a courier in mirrored sunglasses. Things went quiet. Too quiet. Then one morning, I woke to a headline. Backyard Power War Goes Viral. Someone had uploaded the glitter bomb footage. It spread like wildfire. Denise became a meme, the glitter bandit. Reddit, TikTok, Facebook, even a podcast. She was the face of suburban audacity. Humiliated, she filed a formal complaint. Accused me of harassment, endangerment, even psychological trauma. The HOA legal rep came to my house. I gave him coffee and the full presentation, logs, footage, blueprints. He said, "Between you and me, she's hanging by a thread." Then came the HOA emergency meeting. Packed clubhouse. A slideshow of Denise's greatest hits. Fines, complaints, power theft, even screenshots of her mocking neighbors on Facebook. Then the glitter footage played. Denise turned red. Then purple. She stormed out before the vote. She was stripped of her board position, put on probation. If she filed another false report, she'd be fined. If she stole power again, legal consequences. The next day, a for sale sign appeared on her lawn. But even then, I wasn't convinced. I found a final parting gift, a splitter, duct-taped and wedged under my fence. It wasn't live, just symbolic. So I built Breaker Bomb V2. Quieter, smarter, equipped with voice alerts, motion sensors, cloud backups, and a speaker that played a calm recording. This outlet is monitored. Unauthorized access will be reported. Step away. When she plugged in again, the voice kicked on. She panicked, yanked the cord out like it bit her. Days later, the splitter vanished. Then, the moving trucks arrived. Denise was leaving. The final boss of suburban entitlement was finally exiled. She didn't say goodbye. No one expected her to. The day she left, the air felt lighter. The neighborhood breathed again. I threw a barbecue, not to celebrate her departure, but the return of peace. At the center of it all, beside the grill, I displayed the Breaker Bomb on a pedestal with a plaque that read, "In loving memory of Denise's electrical ambitions." People laughed, took pictures. A neighbor asked if he could rent it for his HOA. Weeks later, a young couple moved in. Kind, polite. They brought cupcakes and introduced themselves. The man noticed the outlet and joked, "I wouldn't dare plug into that without asking." I laughed. I didn't tell them about Denise. Not yet. Let the house start fresh. But I kept the footage, just in case someone else decided to play with power. Because peace doesn't come easy. It comes with documentation. And glitter.